October 20th, 1944, 14:37 hours. Hill 120, Peleliu Island. Corporal Daniel Hayes, 23 years old, presses his cheek against the rifle stock. Sweat stings his eyes. The tropical heat is suffocating, but his hands are steady. Brooklyn-born, Oklahoma-raised. Farm boy who learned to shoot at 6 and operate lathes at 14. The kind of American who fixes things because throwing them away isn't an option. Right now, he's aiming at 30 barrels of Japanese fuel, 55 gallons each, stacked under palm fronds 100 yards uphill. He received these red-tipped rounds 4 days ago. October 16th. Supply sergeant handed him 3 magazines with 1 instruction. Special issue. Use sparingly. This morning, 700 hours Hayes test fired 1 round at a coconut palm. The tree exploded in flame. Chemical fire that burned for 40 seconds. Fire that shouldn't come from a rifle bullet. Staff Sergeant Marcus Wade crouches beside him, scanning the ridge through binoculars. Wade is 29, Texas drawl, 3 years of Pacific combat etched into the lines around his eyes. Wade lowers the binoculars. Hayes can destroy this cache, or they can wait for artillery that might not come for hours. By then, the Japanese could move these supplies deeper into the caves. Wade's voice cuts through the heat. You sure about this? Hayes doesn't take his eye from the site. They burned a tree down this morning, Sarge. Should work on fuel. Should Hayes fires. The sound is a sharp crack, higher pitched than standard ammunition. The recoil snaps against his shoulder faster than he expects. For half a second, nothing happens. Then the world catches fire. The fuel drum erupts. Not an explosion, an eruption. Chemical flames burst from the impact point and spread across the drum's surface in less than 3 seconds. The metal superheats. The fuel inside ignites. The flame jumps to the next drum, then the next. Hayes watches through his sights as 30 drums become 30 torches. The fire spreads faster than any natural flame. Faster than white phosphorus, faster than napalm. Secondary explosions begin. Ammunition crates stacked beside the fuel. Mortar rounds cooking off in the heat. Small arms ammunition detonating in chains. Pop, 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 like string of firecrackers. But each pop is a bullet flying random into the hillside. The shockwave hits Hayes and Wade at 100 yards, a wall of superheated air that knocks them backward. Hayes's ears ring. His lungs burn from the heat flash. The fireball climbs 60 feet into the air. Black smoke billows above it. The entire hillside is visible for miles in every direction. Every Marine on Peleliu can see this column of smoke. Wade pulls himself up, staring at the inferno. Jesus Christ, Hayes. What the hell was that round? Hayes ejects the magazine, looks at the red-tipped bullets. I don't know, Sarge, but I think we just burned half the island. Movement on the ridge. Japanese soldiers evacuating their positions. Running from caves, silhouettes against the flames. Some of them are on fire. Hayes can see them beating at their uniforms as they run. The flames don't go out. Wade keys his radio. All units, this is Charlie 3-2. Enemy positions, Hill 120, compromised. Fuel cache destroyed. Enemy evacuating under fire. Request no friendly fire on displaced enemy. We have visual. Hayes keeps watching through his rifle sight. 7 Japanese soldiers running, 4 of them burning. He can't hear their screams over the roar of the fuel fire, but he can see their movements. Panic, terror, pain. He set them on fire, not directly, but his bullet started this chain reaction. 1 trigger pull, 7 men burning. The flame spreads to the hillside vegetation. Peleliu is in dry season. The palm fronds and undergrowth catch instantly. What started as a fuel cache fire becomes a hillside inferno, a firestorm, self-sustaining, feeding on oxygen and fuel and 3 months of drought, dried plants. Wade stands fully now, binoculars up again. The Japanese positions are emptying. Entire squads withdrawing from the ridge, not fighting, not establishing fallback positions, just running. He's never seen Japanese forces abandon defensive positions without inflicting maximum casualties first. Never. Hayes lowers his rifle. His hands are shaking now, adrenaline aftershock, his ears still ringing from the explosions. The smell reaches them, burning fuel, burning vegetation, and underneath it something else, something organic, something that makes his stomach turn. Burning flesh. The fire burns for 6 hours, long after Hayes and Wade pull back to company lines, long after 3rd Platoon secures the base of Hill 120 without firing another shot. Long after Captain Richard Brennan radios battalion to report the hill captured with 0 friendly casualties. That evening, Hayes sits in his foxhole cleaning his rifle. The red-tipped magazines are separate from his standard ammunition. 2 magazines remain. 30 rounds. He fired 15 rounds today. 15 rounds that killed more enemy soldiers than his entire platoon killed in the last week combined. Private First Class Eddie Ramos drops into the adjacent foxhole. 22 years old Los Angeles always has a joke ready. But tonight he's quiet. He watched the fire too. "They're calling you the fire demon," Ramos says. "The Japanese." Intercepted radio chatter. "Hi, no Akuma. Fire demon. They think you're some kind of spirit weapon." Hayes doesn't look up from cleaning his rifle. "I'm not a spirit. I'm just a guy with bullets I don't understand." Ramos lights a cigarette against regulations. Wade's not close enough to stop him.
"You know what those rounds are?" Hayes shakes his head. "Supply sergeant called them incendiary. That's all I know." Silence. The distant crackle of the Hill 120 fire is still audible, the smoke column visible against the sunset. "How many you think died up there?" Ramos asks. Hayes finally looks up. "I don't know. I'm trying not to think about it." "But you have to think about it. You did it." Hayes's jaw tightens. "I know what I did. I pulled a trigger. I destroyed enemy supplies. That's war." Ramos nods slowly. "Yeah, that's war. But watching them burn..." Hayes thinks about the 7 men running, 4 on fire. He pulled 1 trigger and killed 4 men by burning them alive. How is that different from shooting them? Because he can see the method, because fire is worse than bullets? Or is it because somewhere deep in his conscience, in the part that remembers Sunday school in Tulsa, he knows there's something fundamentally wrong about setting human beings on fire? His hand moves to his chest. Under his uniform, he wears a St. Christopher medal. It belonged to his older brother, Thomas. Thomas enlisted Marines the day after Pearl Harbor, killed at Guadalcanal in February 1943. Daniel never got to say goodbye. He wears the medal every day, touches it when he's scared, when he needs to remember why he's here. Right now, he touches Thomas's medal and thinks about what his brother would say. About the fire, about the burning men, about whether this is war or something else. He doesn't have an answer. Wade appears at the foxhole entrance. "Hayes, Captain wants to see you." Hayes sets down his cleaning rod. Now. Hayes climbs out, follows Wade through the company perimeter. Marines are dug in every 20 yards. Fortified positions, machine gun emplacements, artillery observers with radios, the organized chaos of a combat zone after sunset. Captain Brennan's command post is a reinforced foxhole covered with logs and sandbags. Brennan is 35 West Point veteran of North Africa before transferring to the Pacific. He looks exhausted. Everyone looks exhausted. Brennan looks up from a map table as Hayes enters. "Corporal Hayes, hell of a shot today. Thank you, sir." Brennan studies him for a moment. "You know what you accomplished. Destroyed enemy supplies, sir. You did more than that. You changed the tactical situation on this entire ridge. The Japanese evacuated 6 defensive positions, positions that would have cost us 50, 60 men to take by assault. You took them with 1 bullet. Hayes doesn't know what to say to that. Brennan continues. Battalion wants to know what ammunition you were using. They're calling it M27 incendiary. You're the first Marine to demonstrate its full capability against material targets. Material targets. That's what they're calling it. Not the 4 men who burned. Sir, I have 30 rounds left. When do we get resupply? Brennan shakes his head. That's the problem. M27 is in limited supply. Production can't keep up with demand. You're getting 45 rounds per month. Standard allocation is 135. You're getting 1/4 standard load. Because these are more effective. Because these are more expensive. More complicated to manufacture. And because... Brennan hesitates. Because what, sir? Because there are concerns. Medical, psychological. The ammunition is effective, but there are costs we're still evaluating. Hayes thinks about the Corman report he overheard yesterday. Marines requesting transfers away from units using M27. Nightmares. Moral distress. Chaplains without guidance to offer. Sir, permission to speak freely. Granted. Those rounds work. They stop the enemy immediately. But watching men burn... Brennan nods slowly. I know. I watched it too. But here's what you need to understand, Hayes. The alternative is sending Marines up that hill in a frontal assault. The alternative is 50 body bags instead of 0. The alternative is your name on a casualty report instead of a commendation. Hayes knows Brennan is right. Tactically, strategically, mathematically right. But right and righteous aren't always the same thing. Brennan pulls out a folder. Classified documents. He shouldn't be showing Hayes, but he does anyway. Inside are technical drawings, chemical formulas, production specifications. Before we talk about distribution, I need to tell you about where these rounds came from, about the man who designed them. Hayes looks at the documents. His name is Robert Kellerman, engineer at Frankfurt Arsenal in Pennsylvania. He created M27 in July. By August, it was in production. By October, it was in your hands. Fastest weapons development in Army history. Why are you telling me this, sir? Because you need to understand the weapon you're using isn't just ammunition. It's a decision, a moral decision. Kellerman designed it to save American lives. It does that. But it also creates the burden you're feeling right now. Hayes stares at the technical drawings. Somewhere in Pennsylvania, an engineer drew these diagrams, calculated burn temperatures, measured wound cavities, designed a bullet that sets flesh on fire. Did he think about the men who would use it? Did he think about what they would see, what they would carry home? Sir, I'll keep using M27 as ordered. But I need to know. Is this ammunition going to more units? Every combat unit in the Pacific is getting allocations by end of November. What you're carrying now, everyone will be carrying. Hayes absorbs this. Hundreds of Marines, all of them about to experience what he experienced today, all of them about to carry what he's carrying now. Dismissed, Corporal. Get some sleep. Tomorrow we push to Hill 100. You're on point. Hayes salutes, turns to leave. Hayes. Sir, the men you killed today, they would have killed you if they'd had the chance. Remember that. Hayes nods. Yes, sir. But as he walks back to his foxhole, he thinks about Brennan's words. They would have killed you if they'd had the chance. True. Absolutely true. But does that make burning them alive right? Or does it just make it necessary? And if something is necessary but not right, what does that make the man who does it? Hayes doesn't sleep that night. Every time he closes his eyes, he sees the 7 silhouettes, 4 of them burning, running, trying to escape fire that won't go out. He opens his eyes and stares at the stars. the same stars that shine over Brooklyn, over Oklahoma, over his mother's house where she waits for him to come home. He made her a promise. He'd survive. He'd come home. He wouldn't end up like Thomas. The M27 ammunition helps him keep that promise. It stops the enemy immediately. It saves American lives. It brings him one day closer to home. But the cost is watching men burn. The cost is knowing he set them on fire. The cost is carrying that knowledge for whatever life comes after this war. If there is a life after this war. The night drags on. Hayes eventually sleeps for 2 hours, dreams of fire, wakes up sweating despite the cool pre-dawn air. 0600 hours, reveille, Marines stirring, breakfast, cold rations, coffee that tastes like dirt. 700 hours, weapons check. Hayes loads his magazines, 2 red-tipped, 10 standard. The red tips go in his left ammo pouch, easy to identify by touch. 800 hours. Formation. Captain Brennan briefs the mission. Hill 100. Japanese have held it for 4 days.
Previous attacks by Fox and George companies. 40% casualties. 0 progress. Fortified caves. Machine gun positions with interlocking fields of fire. In short, a nightmare. But today they have an advantage. They have M27 incendiary ammunition. They have the fire demon. Brennan doesn't say that last part, but Hayes can feel the eyes on him. The other Marines know. Word spreads fast in combat units. Hayes destroyed Hill 120 with 1 bullet. Now they expect miracles. He's not a miracle worker. He's just a guy with red-tipped bullets he doesn't fully understand. 3rd Platoon, your lead element. Hayes, you're on point. Wade, keep him alive. Wade nods. Yes, sir. Jump off is 00900 hours. Artillery prep fires at 0845. You'll have 15 minutes of bombardment, then you move. Questions. No one speaks. Good hunting. Hayes checks his weapon one more time. Thinks about his mother, about Thomas, about the promise he made. He's going to keep that promise. He's going to survive. He's going to go home, even if he has to burn the entire Japanese army to do it. Even if that means he's not the same person who left Brooklyn in 1943. 0845 hours. Artillery opens fire. The sound is a continuous roar, shells screaming overhead, explosions on Hill 100, smoke and fire and chaos. 900 hours. The artillery stops. Sudden silence. Ears ringing. Wade's voice. Move out. 3rd Platoon rises from their positions. 40 Marines. Combat loaded. 60 to 80 pounds of equipment each, moving toward a hill that has already killed dozens of their brothers. Hayes is first. Point man, 30 yards ahead of the main element. He pushes through undergrowth. Coral rock underfoot. Sharp. Heat is already building. 50 yards. 75. 100. The base of Hill 100. Hayes raises his fist. Platoon stops. He scans the hillside. There. Cave entrance. 40 yards uphill. Sandbags. Camouflage netting. Hayes signals Wade. Enemy position identified. Wade moves up. Examines the cave through binoculars. Machine gun nest. Probably 2-man crew. Hayes pulls out the red-tipped magazine. Loads it. Chambers around. Wade watches. You think M27 will work on fortified positions? Only one way to find out. But before Hayes can aim, a Japanese soldier emerges from the cave. He's not combat ready. He's carrying a water container, maybe coming to refill canteens. He's 40 yards away. In the open. Type 38 rifle slung on his back. Not aimed, not ready. Hayes has him dead to rights. Clean shot, easy shot. But Hayes hesitates.
The soldier is young, maybe 19, 20 at most. He's not threatening. He's not attacking. He's just a kid carrying water. Wade whispers, "Take the shot." Hayes's finger moves to the trigger, but he doesn't squeeze. The soldier turns, starts walking back to the cave. In 5 seconds he'll be inside. He'll warn his comrades. The element of surprise will be gone. Hayes fires. The world ignites for the second time in 24 hours. The bullet strikes the Japanese soldier between the shoulder blades. For one heartbeat, nothing happens. The soldier stumbles forward, drops the water container. His hands reach back toward the impact point as if he could somehow pull the bullet out. Then his entire back erupts in flame. Magnesium blaze, the same impossible burning that consumed the fuel drums yesterday. But this time, it's flesh. Living flesh. The soldier screams. Hayes has heard men scream before. He's heard wounded men cry for medics. He's heard dying men call for their mothers. But this is different. This is a sound that bypasses the ears and goes straight to some primal part of the brain that recognizes pure agony. The flames spread across the soldier's uniform tunic. 3 seconds and his entire back is burning. He spins, trying to see what's happening to him. His face comes into view. Young, terrified. Eyes wide with an understanding that's worse than pain. The understanding that he's going to die burning alive. He tears at his uniform, trying to remove it. But the flames have already spread to his hands. His fingers catch fire. He's screaming words Hayes doesn't understand. Japanese, maybe calling for help, maybe praying. He falls to his knees, still burning. The flames eat through the uniform and reach skin. The smell hits Hayes. Sweet, organic, nauseating. The smell of burning flesh. The soldier collapses forward, face down on the coral rock. Still burning. Hayes can't look away. His finger is still on the trigger. His eye still pressed to the rear sight. He watches through the iron sights as the flames consume the body. 30 seconds, 1 minute, 2 minutes. The screaming stops after 90 seconds, but the burning continues. Wade's hand grips Hayes's shoulder. He doesn't speak. He doesn't need to. Hayes knows. 2 more Japanese soldiers are emerging from the cave entrance. Hayes fires twice. Both soldiers ignite. Both fall. Both burn. One tries to run back into the cave. He makes it 3 steps before collapsing. The flames follow him inside. Smoke pours from the cave entrance. The other soldier tries to remove his uniform, gets the tunic halfway off before the flames spread to his bare chest. He falls sideways, rolls down the hillside 10 feet, still burning. Comes to rest against a rock. The flames don't stop. 3 men, all burning. The smell is overwhelming now. Hayes's stomach clenches. He tastes bile. Wade keys his radio. All elements enemy position neutralized. Cave entrance at grid 273459. Advance with caution. 3rd platoon moves forward. 40 Marines passing the 3 burning bodies. Some avert their eyes, some stare. No one speaks. Private Eddie Ramos moves alongside Hayes. His face is pale. "Danny, what the hell is that ammunition?" Hayes doesn't answer. He's watching the cave entrance. Smoke is still pouring out. The platoon reaches the cave entrance. Wade throws a grenade inside. Standard fragmentation. The explosion echoes. More smoke. Wade waits 30 seconds, then moves inside with 2 Marines. Flashlights cutting through the darkness. Hayes stays outside, covering the approach. His hands are shaking now. Adrenaline aftershock. Or something else. Something that feels like his body rejecting what his mind forced it to do. He looks at the first soldier, the one carrying water. The body is still smoldering, The flames have mostly burned out, but the heat remains. The uniform is gone. The flesh is charred black. The smell makes Hayes turn away and vomit into the undergrowth. Ramos appears beside him. "You okay?" Hayes wipes his mouth. "No, none of us are." Wade emerges from the cave. Position clear. No additional enemy. But there's a tunnel. Goes deeper.
"We're not following it," Good Hayes says. "Let's keep moving." The platoon advances up Hill 100. Hayes on point again. Every 30 yards he expects gunfire. Every shadow could be an enemy soldier. But they encounter no resistance. The Japanese have withdrawn, abandoned their prepared positions without firing a shot. By 1100 hours, 3rd Platoon reaches the summit of Hill 100. 4 days of fighting, dozens of American casualties in previous attacks. Today, 0. Captain Brennan arrives with the company command element. He surveys the position, the abandoned machine gun nests, the supply caches left behind. He finds Hayes. "Hell of a job, Corporal. Thank you, sir." Brennan looks at the red-tipped magazine in Hayes's weapon. "How many rounds did you use, 3, sir?" 3 rounds, 3 dead enemy, and an entire defensive position abandoned. Brennan shakes his head. "Battalion is going to want a detailed report." "Yes, sir." But Brennan sees something in Hayes's face, something that makes him pause. "You good, Hayes?" Hayes doesn't know how to answer that. He's physically fine, not wounded, not injured, but something inside him feels broken, something that wasn't broken yesterday. "I'm fine, sir." Brennan doesn't look convinced, but he doesn't push. "Get some rest. We're holding this position overnight." That evening, Hayes sits on the summit of Hill 100, watching the sun set over the Pacific. The ocean is beautiful, golden light on dark water. If he didn't know better, he'd think this was paradise, but he knows better. This is Peleliu. This is hell painted pretty. Ramos joins him, brings 2 canteens of water. They drink in silence for a while. Finally, Ramos speaks. "They're calling you Haino Akuma, fire demon. Intercepted more radio chatter today. The Japanese are terrified of you." Hayes doesn't feel like a demon. He feels like a farm boy from Oklahoma who was given a weapon he doesn't understand and told to use it. "How do you do it?" Ramos asks. "Do what watch them burn. I was 50 yards away and I almost puked. You were 40 yards away looking right at them." Hayes takes another drink. "I don't know. I just do it because I have to." "But how do you live with it?" Hayes turns to look at Ramos directly. "I don't know if I can. I don't know what's going to be left of me when this is over." Ramos nods slowly. "Yeah, I think about that too. Who we're going to be when we go home. If we even can go home. If home will recognize us." 5,000 miles away across the Pacific Ocean in Frankfurt Arsenal, Pennsylvania. Robert Kellerman sits in his office reading reports. The reports are classified, eyes only. They detail the combat effectiveness of M27 incendiary ammunition. The reports are excellent. Everything Kellerman hoped for. Better even. The ammunition stops enemy soldiers immediately. 94% incapacitation rate on first hit. Compare that to 31% for standard ammunition. The difference is staggering. The ammunition saves American lives. Every engagement using M27 shows lower friendly casualties. Significantly lower. The numbers don't lie. Kellerman should be proud. He's 38 years old. Engineer. Pittsburgh native. Married to Sarah. 2 daughters, Emma and Clara. He designed this. He solved the problem everyone said was impossible. But then he reaches page 6 of the report. Medical observations. Navy Corpsman testimony. Treatment of American personnel exposed to M27 casualties. The words blur together at first. Then they come into focus with horrible clarity.
psychological distress, nightmares, refusal to continue using M27 ammunition, requests for transfer, moral injury, acute stress reactions. One passage stops Kellerman cold. Marines report watching enemy personnel burn for extended periods after being struck. The sounds create severe emotional distress. Several Marines have requested they be allowed to deliver mercy shots to burning enemy soldiers. Requests denied due to ammunition conservation. Kellerman reads that paragraph 3 times. Mercy shots. Because the burning is so horrible that American Marines men trained to kill men who have killed before are begging permission to shoot enemy soldiers again just to end their suffering. Kellerman designed that suffering. He calculated the burn temperature, 4,500 degrees Fahrenheit. He knew these numbers. He wrote them in reports. He presented them to the Pentagon as proof of effectiveness. But he never thought about what those numbers actually mean. He never imagined Marines begging to put dying men out of their misery. He turns to page 8. Chaplain's report. From Chaplain Samuel Torres, 1st Marine Division. The chaplain writes about Marines coming to him with questions. Moral questions. Theological questions. Is it a sin to burn men alive? Can God forgive them? The chaplain admits he has no answers. He's requested guidance from the chief of chaplains. Meanwhile, these men carry their burden alone. Kellerman sets down the report, removes his glasses, rubs his eyes. He designed M27 to save American lives. It does that. The numbers prove it. But the numbers don't capture the human cost, the psychological damage, the moral injury, the souls crying out for guidance that doesn't exist. He never thought about the souls. He thought about ballistics, chemistry, wound cavities, incapacitation rates, kill ratios, all the technical problems that engineers solve. But soldiers aren't machines. War isn't mathematics. Death isn't just a statistic in a report. Kellerman stands, walks to the window, looks down at the production floor of Plant 4. Workers assembling M27 rounds, 125,000 per day, each round capable of setting a man on fire, each round carrying his design, his calculations, his solution, his responsibility. A knock at the door. His colleague, Dr. Marcus Chen, enters. "You okay, Robert? You look rough." Kellerman turns from the window. "Read the Palladium report this morning." Chen nods. "I saw it. Outstanding performance. Everything we hoped for. It burns them alive, Marcus, for minutes at a time." Chen shifts uncomfortably. "Yes. That's the incendiary effect we engineered. We're traumatizing the Marines who use it. They're having nightmares, requesting transfers, asking chaplains if they've committed sins." Chen sits down. "What did you expect, Robert? We designed ammunition that sets people on fire. Of course it's traumatic. War is traumatic. But this is different. The chaplain says Marines are begging for permission to shoot burning men just to end their suffering." Chen doesn't respond immediately. "Then, they're enemy soldiers. The Marines should feel good about stopping them." Should they? Should they feel good about watching human beings burn alive, screaming? Chen's voice hardens. "Those human beings would kill our boys without hesitation. Every Japanese soldier killed means an American soldier who goes home alive. Your ammunition does that better than anything else we have. You should be proud." Kellerman sits back down. "I thought I would be. I thought saving American lives would be enough. But now I'm not sure. Not sure of what that effectiveness and morality are the same thing. That just because we can do something means we should." Chen stands. "You're overthinking this. We're engineers. We solve problems. The moral questions are above our pay grade. Leave that to the chaplains and the politicians." He leaves. Kellerman sits alone in his office staring at the report. He thinks about the Marine who wrote one of the testimonies. Corporal Daniel Hayes, Brooklyn, 23 years old. Does Hayes know Kellerman's name? Does he know who created the rounds he's using? Does he blame Kellerman for the nightmares he's surely having? Or does Hayes understand that Kellerman was just trying to help? Kellerman doesn't know. He'll probably never know. Hayes is 5,000 miles away fighting a war. Kellerman is in Pennsylvania designing weapons. They'll never meet, never speak, never share the burden they both carry. But they're connected. Engineer and user, designer and operator, creator and executioner, both responsible, both guilty, both trying to survive with the knowledge of what they've done. Kellerman pulls out a sheet of paper, begins writing a letter. He's not sure who it's for. Maybe the chaplain, maybe Hayes, maybe himself. I designed M27 incendiary ammunition to save American lives. It does that, but it also creates suffering I did not adequately consider. He stops writing, crumples the paper. There are no words, no apology sufficient, no explanation that changes what he's created. And somewhere on Palladiu, a 23-year-old Marine from Brooklyn is watching men burn because Kellerman gave him the tool to do it. Both of them will carry this for the rest of their lives. The days blur together after that. October becomes November. November becomes December. Hayes keeps using M27. His kill count rises. 50, 75, 100. November the 1st, 1944. Morning. Hayes is called to battalion headquarters. Captain Brennan is waiting with a lieutenant colonel. Hayes doesn't recognize. The colonel is Army, not Marines. His uniform is clean. No combat badges. Rear echelon. Corporal Hayes, the colonel says. I'm Lieutenant Colonel Morrison, Army Ordnance Department. I'm here to gather data on M27 combat effectiveness. Hayes stands at attention. Yes, sir. You've fired more M27 rounds than any other operator in theater. 63 rounds, 59 confirmed kills. Hayes didn't know someone was tracking so precisely. Yes, sir. That sounds right. The colonel pulls out a notepad, begins asking questions, technical questions, range, accuracy, feeding reliability. Hayes answers mechanically, professionally. Then the colonel asks about effectiveness, specifically incapacitation rate. Every hit stopped the enemy immediately, sir. 94% immediate incapacitation. Excellent. And the psychological effect on enemy forces significant, sir. Captured prisoners report widespread fear. Enemy soldiers disengage when they observe M27 casualties. The colonel writes furiously, "This is exactly what we hoped for." Excellent work, Corporal. Hayes doesn't feel like it's excellent work. He feels like he's describing a horror show. But the colonel sees only statistics. Numbers on a page. One final question, the colonel says. How has using M27 affected you personally? Any concerns Hayes considers lying, telling the colonel what he wants to hear. But something inside him rebels. Sir, the ammunition is extremely effective. But watching enemy personnel burn creates significant psychological stress. Several Marines in my unit have requested transfer away from M27 duties. The colonel stops writing, looks up. Are you requesting transfer, Corporal? No, sir. I'm reporting observed effects. Noted. The colonel closes his notepad. Your concerns will be included in my report, but I want to be clear. M27 ammunition is saving American lives. The psychological stress is regrettable but necessary. Do you understand? Yes, sir. Good. Continue as assigned. Dismissed. December the 1st, 1944. Wade is killed. Sniper shot. Clean. Instant. Hayes is 20 yards away. He doesn't see the shooter. Doesn't hear the shot until after Wade falls. They recover Wade's body, search his effects, find a letter he never sent. Hayes reads it. Once, twice, 3 times. Pray this war ends before we become the things we're fighting against. Wade knew. Wade understood. The cost isn't just what you do, it's what you become doing it. Hayes keeps the letter, folds it carefully, puts it in his pocket next to the letter he wrote his mother. 2 letters, 2 lies, 2 attempts to make sense of war. The war grinds on. Hayes keeps using M27. His kill count reaches 150, then 175, then 200. February 19th, 1945. Marines invade Iwo Jima. Hayes is there. M27 ammunition is standard issue now. Thousands of Marines now carry the burden he carries. Thousands of men now watch enemies burn. April 1st. Okinawa invasion begins. Hayes transfers with his unit. More islands, more caves, more enemies to burn. But something changes on Okinawa. After 6 months of using M27, after 200 confirmed kills, after countless nightmares, Hayes makes a decision. May 28th, Shuri Castle ruins. Hayes encounters a Japanese soldier. Teenager, maybe 17, unarmed, hands raised in surrender. A second soldier appears behind the first, armed, raising his rifle. Hayes reacts instantly, fires M27. The armed soldier ignites, falls, burns, but the unarmed teenager just stands there, frozen, watching his comrade die screaming. Hayes could shoot him, should shoot him, but Hayes doesn't fire. He lowers his weapon. The teenager stares at him. Fear, confusion, gratitude maybe. Then he runs. Ramos appears beside Hayes. Why didn't you shoot him? Hayes ejects the M27 magazine, drops it on the ground, loads a standard magazine. I'm done, Eddie. I'm not using these anymore. What I'll use standard ammunition. I'll keep fighting. But I'm done burning people alive. Hayes, the M27 works. It saves lives. I know. But it's costing me mine, and I'm done paying that price. Hayes reports his decision. The captain calls him in. Corporal, you're refusing to use M27 ammunition. I'm requesting standard ammunition, sir. I'll continue my duties, but I'm done with incendiary rounds. The captain considers this. M27 is 3 times more effective than standard rounds. I understand, sir. It might cost American lives. Hayes meets the captain's eyes. It's already cost my soul, sir. I'd like to keep what's left of it. The captain doesn't know what to say to that. Finally, he nods. Request approved. Yes, sir. Hayes walks out. Feels lighter somehow. Still carrying the weight of 200 burning men, still haunted by their screams. But at least he won't add to that number. At least he draws a line somewhere. June 21st, 1945. Okinawa secured. 82 days of combat. Hayes survives again. Always survives. August 15th. Japan surrenders. The war ends. Hayes is alive. He kept his promise to his mother. He's coming home. But the man coming home isn't the man who left. October 1945. Hayes boards a transport ship. Destination San Francisco, then Brooklyn, then home. He stands on the deck watching Okinawa disappear behind him. 6 islands, 2 years of combat. 200 men burned by his hand. And for what victory? America won. Japan lost. The war is over. But Hayes doesn't feel victorious. He feels empty, hollowed out, like something vital was burned away along with all those enemy soldiers. The war is over. But for Daniel Hayes, the burning never stops. October 1945. Brooklyn. Hayes returns home. His mother weeps. His sister Grace hugs him tight. His father shakes his hand with pride in his eyes. But Hayes is hollow. He takes his old job, hardware store, fixing things, selling nails and screws to neighbors who think they know him. They don't. 1946 becomes 1950. 1950 becomes 1970. 1970 becomes 1987. 42 years of silence. Hayes marries Helen in 1948. Good woman, patient woman. She knows not to ask about the war. 3 children, 7 grandchildren by 1987. Normal life, quiet life. But every night before sleep, Hayes sees them. The burning men, 4 on Hill 120, 3 on Hill 100. The others whose faces blur together. 200 men, all burning. The smell never leaves his nose. The screams never leave his ears. He tells no one. Not Helen, not his children, not his grandchildren who ask, "What did you do in the war?" "Grandpa, I was a Marine," he says. Nothing more. Some truths are too heavy to share. March 1987. Hayes is 66, retired, lives in same Brooklyn house he grew up in. Phone rings. Hayes answers. "Mr. Hayes. This is Dr. Robert Morrison, Marine Corps Historical Division. We're conducting oral histories of Pacific Theater veterans. Your name appears in declassified reports regarding M27 incendiary ammunition." Hayes's hand tightens on the phone. "M27 is declassified now. As of January, we'd like to interview you about your experiences. You were the first Marine to demonstrate its effectiveness." Hayes sits down. 42 years. 42 years of silence. And now they want him to speak. Helen appears in the doorway, sees his face, concerned. Hayes covers the phone. "They want to talk about the war, about the fire." Helen has been married to him for 39 years. She knows the nightmares, the way he wakes up sweating, the way he sometimes stares at nothing. Maybe it's time, Danny. Maybe talking will help. Hayes doesn't think anything will help, but he agrees. June 1987, Marine Corps Historical Division Office, Manhattan. Dr. Morrison is young, 40 maybe, never saw combat, professional, respectful. "Mr. Hayes, thank you for agreeing to this interview. When were you first issued M27 ammunition? October 16, 1944, Peleliu, and your first use?" Hayes closes his eyes, opens them. October 20th, Hill 120. "I shot at fuel drums. 4 men burned. I watched them run, watched them die." Morrison writes, "Professional distance. Can you describe the effect of the ammunition magnesium-based fire? Burned at 4,500 degrees. The men screamed. They tried to put it out. They couldn't." "How many times did you use M27 200 kills, give or take?" Morrison looks up. 200 confirmed. 200 men who burned because I pulled the trigger. I stopped counting at 150. Someone else kept track. The reports say M27 was highly effective, that it changed enemy tactics, saved American lives. Hayes meets Morrison's eyes. It did. Every word of that is true. But watching 200 men burn alive costs something from your soul. I see them every night, every single night for 42 years. I see them burning, hear them screaming, smell them. Pause. Morrison asks, "Do you regret using M27? Hayes thinks. Long time. "No, I don't regret it. It kept me alive. It brought me home to my mother. It let me meet Helen, have children, have grandchildren. But I'm not proud of it either. I'm just carrying it, same as I've carried it for 42 years. What would you say to the man who designed M27, Robert Kellerman Hayes, hadn't known the name until 1987? Morrison told him earlier. I'd thank him. His ammunition saved my life. And I'd tell him I'm sorry. Because if I carry the burden of using it, he must carry the burden of creating it. That's heavier than anything I've carried. The interview lasts 3 hours. Hayes tells everything. The fuel cache, Hill 100, Wade's death, the 200 men, everything except the names. He never learned their names. They're just burning shadows in his memory. When it's over, Morrison shakes his hand. Thank you for your service, Mr. Hayes, and thank you for your honesty. Hayes walks out. Helen is waiting in the car. How was it hard? But maybe necessary. For the first time in 42 years, Hayes has spoken the truth. And he's still alive. Maybe truth doesn't kill you. Maybe it just hurts. November 1990. Honolulu, Hawaii. Japanese-American Veterans Reconciliation Conference. Hayes is 69. Didn't want to come. Helen convinced him. Danny, you've been carrying this alone for 45 years. Maybe meeting them will help. Them. The enemy. The ones he burned. The conference is at a hotel. 200 veterans, half American, half Japanese. All old men now, all survivors. Panel discussion. Topic: weapons technology in Pacific War. American veteran mentions flamethrowers. Japanese veteran mentions banzai tactics. Professional, polite, diplomatic. Then someone asks about M27 incendiary ammunition. Silence. Everyone knows about M27 now. Declassified, documented, controversial. American moderator looks uncomfortable. M27 was effective but controversial. It saved American lives but caused significant suffering. I don't think we need to. A Japanese veteran stands. Elderly, 74 maybe, thin, dignified. I would like to speak about this ammunition. Moderator hesitates. Sir, this might be. I was there. I saw it. I need to speak. The room quiets. My name is Hiroshi Nakamura. I was private in Japanese Army. I was on Palailiu. Hill 100. October 1944. Hayes's heart stops. Hill 100. October 23rd. Where he killed 3 men with M27. Nakamura continues. I was in observation position, 50 yards from cave entrance. I watched 3 of my comrades burn. I had never seen anything like it. The fire came from inside their bodies, spreading outward. They screamed for minutes. I could do nothing. I watched them die. Nakamura's voice is steady, but his hands shake. Next day I surrendered. First time in my service. But I chose to surrender because I preferred bullet to fire. I preferred quick death to slow burning. He pauses. For many years I hated Americans. I hated the man who killed my friends. But now, 45 years later, I understand. He was soldier like me, following orders, trying to survive. The weapon was terrible. War was terrible. But the man was just trying to go home, like I was. Nakamura sits down. Hayes stands up. He doesn't plan to. His body just does it. Everyone turns to look. Mr. Nakamura, I was on Hill 100, October 21st. I killed 3 Japanese soldiers with M27 ammunition. Nakamura looks at him. Old eyes meeting old eyes. Hayes continues. I don't know if I killed your friends. There were many caves, many positions. But I killed 3 men that day, and I've seen them burning every night for 45 years. His voice breaks. First time crying about the war in public. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know I carry those deaths. All of them. 200 men. I carry them every day. Silence in the room. 200 old men. All veterans. All understanding what carrying means. Nakamura stands, walks across the room, extends his hand. Hayes looks at the hand. Enemy hand, survivor hand, human hand. He takes it. They shake. Nakamura's voice is quiet. You did not choose the weapon. You chose to survive. I did the same. We are both victims of what war makes us do. Hayes breaks down. 45 years of holding it in, 45 years of carrying alone. And finally someone understands. Not forgiveness. Understanding. That's enough. After the conference, Hayes and Nakamura sit in hotel lobby, drinking coffee. Two old men, two survivors. Do you have family? Nakamura asks. Wife, 3 children, 7 grandchildren. I have 2 sons, 4 grandchildren. I taught mathematics after the war. Retired now. Mathematics. That's good. Better than killing, yes. They exchange addresses, promise to write. And unlike Hayes and Ramos, they do. Annual letters for 8 years, until Nakamura's death in 1998. Lung cancer, 78 years old. Hayes receives the letter from Nakamura's son, reads it 3 times. Then he writes his last letter to Nakamura, even though he's dead, even though he'll never read it. Hiroshi, thank you for understanding. Thank you for forgiving what I couldn't forgive myself. You gave me something I'd been searching for since 1944. Peace. Not complete peace, but enough to keep living. Thank you, my friend. He mails the letter anyway, to Nakamura's son. So someone knows. November 1984. Robert Kellerman dies. Pneumonia, age 78. Pittsburgh. He never spoke publicly about M27, never gave interviews, never wrote memoirs. On his deathbed, his son-in-law David visits. David is engineer too, 30, works in aerospace. Mr. Kellerman, your work at Frankfurt Arsenal. Emma said you never talked about it. Kellerman struggles to breathe. Oxygen mask, weak. Some work shouldn't be remembered. But you contributed to victory. You should be proud. Kellerman removes the mask for a moment. Pride is complicated. I saved lives. I caused suffering. Both true. Make things that heal, David, not things that harm. That's the lesson. He dies 6 hours later. His classified file, declassified 1998, contains the 1946 transfer request letter. Hayes reads about Kellerman's death in 1998. Newspaper retrospective. The obituary mentions the transfer request. The guilt. The burden. Hayes cries. Age 77. Crying for a man he never met, but a man who carried the same weight. September 2004. Daniel Hayes dies. Heart failure. Age 83. Found in his possessions. St. Christopher Medal, Thomas's 47 letters from Hiroshi Nakamura Journal, 60 years of entries. Final entry, September 1st, 2004. I'm 83, lived good life, wife, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren. I ran hardware store for 40 years. I fixed things, I helped people. But every night before sleep I see them. 200 burning men. I've made peace with what I did, haven't forgotten. You shouldn't forget either. Remember the cost. Remember what war makes people do. Remember we're all human. The ones who burn and the ones who pull the trigger. Remember, his funeral has full military honors. Bronze Star, Purple Heart, Good Conduct Medal. The eulogy mentions his service, his sacrifice, his bravery. It doesn't mention M27. The family asked them not to. Some truths are too heavy for eulogies. 2024. Smithsonian National Museum of American History, Washington, D.C. Display case in World War II section. Inside single M27 cartridge. Red-tipped bullet. Brass casing. Label reads M27. Incendiary. Cartridge Cal 30. Carbine. Produced 1944 to 1945. Total manufactured 433,000 rounds. Combat use, Pacific Theater, classified, 1945 to 1988. Status, destroyed,
1989. Development prohibited, 1974. This ammunition represented both technological innovation and moral complexity. It saved an estimated 15,000 to 20,000 American lives while causing extreme suffering to enemy combatants. Its use and subsequent prohibition shaped modern military ethics and weapons policy. The men who designed, used and faced this weapon all carried its burden for the rest of their lives. Daniel Hayes, 1921 to 2004, Robert Kellerman, 1906 to 1984, Hiroshi Nakamura, 1916 to 1998, Marcus Wade, 1915 to 1944. They carried this burden, so we don't have to. The least we can do is remember. Visitors pass by, some read, others glance. Children ask parents what incendiary means. Parents struggle to explain. The cartridge sits in its case, inert, harmless, historic, but once it set men on fire, and the men who used it never forgot. 187 million rounds, 187 million decisions to prioritize American lives over enemy suffering, 1,340 enemy soldiers killed by fire, 15,000 to 20,000 American soldiers saved, countless men on both sides traumatized, 3 men, Hayes, Kellerman, Nakamura, who found understanding in the end. One weapon that worked so well, it was banned forever. One lesson: some innovations should stay buried. This was one of them. The war ended in 1945, but the burning never stopped. Not for Hayes, not for Kellerman, not for Nakamura. They carried fire for the rest of their lives, all of them trying to answer the same question. Was it worth it? Hayes said yes and no, both true. Kellerman said, I don't know, but I'm sorry. Nakamura said, I forgive you, and I understand. 3 answers to an impossible question. 3 men connected by fire. 3 lives shaped by one weapon. The devil's rounds. Effective, terrible, necessary, haunting.